Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for IOFM's virtual demo day. My name is Mark Brousseau, President Brousseau and Associates. I'll be your moderator for today's event. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we start our next product demonstration. If you have any technical questions or issues using the WebEx platform, please use the chat box and someone will respond to you right away. If you have any issues with audio, please click on the phone icon above the chat window to receive the teleconference information. For those of you that do call in, to ensure call quality, everyone's lines have been muted today. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the product demonstration. Please type your questions into the chat box and hit send to submit them to me. At the end of the product demonstration, I will have our presenter answer your questions. One last important note, this event will not be available on demand. Please plan to attend the sessions that are of interest to you. Your webinar confirmation email provides you with full day access, and you can come and go as you see fit and your schedule allows. Our next product demonstration is sponsored by Aavenir and is presented by Vikram Chakrabarti. At this time, I'd like to welcome our presenter and hand the product demonstration off to Vikram. Vikram?
All right, thank you very much, Mark. Thanks a lot. And good morning to everyone. And thank you for being with us today. IOFM Demo Day is really a unique event, virtual event, and I'm personally delighted to be here today. I'd like to quickly thank IOFM for having us here. My name is Vikram Chakrabarti, and I lead product pre-sales globally for Aavenir. And today we are going to look at the 4 essential steps to make your AP processes more efficient, streamlined, and ultimately help free up the time of AP staff that's otherwise spent on routine and mundane activities such as monitoring inboxes and intake of invoices manually. So our objective is really to make APs work better and more strategic, taking you up from the routine operational level tasks to where you can really start managing by exception. And so instead of, for example, instead of having to manually verify and validate invoices, as an example, you now only need to do that for those invoices that do not meet your validation criteria, leading you to virtually a touchless way of invoice intake. So that's what we're going to look at today. And we have built a suite of SaaS products to help you drive automation and realize efficiency gains across the various activities within the source to pay process. But today we are specifically going to look at Aavenir's invoice flow product. That's what we've named it. And this product automates your AP function. A little brief about us before we get to that. We were founded as an organization by a couple of visionary leaders who came with many years of experience in the source to pay technology space. And so when we set out to build these products, we took 2 important decisions that eventually proved to be groundbreaking. One of them was to build our product on the ServiceNow platform, which gave our product the flexibility, the configurability to adapt and tailor our system, the workflows, exactly according to your specific needs, the way you do it in your organization, using very simple point and click configuration. And the other decision we took was to make use of the latest available technology today. Needless to say that you just can't ignore AI, artificial intelligence today. It's everywhere. If you just look around, it's everywhere around you today. And so our products leverages artificial intelligence, machine learning, and NLP, that's natural language processing, to automate your invoice intake process and the validation process as well, so as to make that process virtually touchless. And like I said before, you'd only touch by exception those invoices that don't meet your validation criteria. That's a big step ahead. And before I actually get into the product demonstration, I'd really like to quickly touch upon some success outcomes of some of our customers. TD Williamson is it's one of our customers that's currently using our invoice flow product. They went live successfully a couple of weeks back. And today with our system, they are able to process over 70,000 invoices coming in through 7 different mailboxes across multiple regions in the world. Welldine is another customer, live customer. They use our product and they have realized over 90% improvement in visibility on their spend. And that is due to the analytics dashboards that we provide. So every invoice that gets processed through our system, it automatically starts feeding data into various dashboards within our system. And so that gives you valuable insights into your overall spend across the organization, and also a lot of AP efficiency metrics, by the way. And like I said at the start, that this session is really about the 4 steps that will help you transform your AP from the old way of doing things, which is what you're seeing here on the left of the screen, where you're looking at disconnected processes, manual workflows, siloed ways of working, virtually no visibility, no reports, no dashboards, to a totally new way of working, where step 1 is we use technology to give you a fully automated way to intake incoming invoices using AI, ML, and natural language processing. Step 2, we kick in automated vendor validation as well as PO and GRN matching. Step 3 is an internal collaboration workflow that we give you, which is very efficient to drive internal collaboration amongst different stakeholders. And step 4 is basically gaining visibility into your AP process efficiency metrics as well as organizational spend metrics. Okay, with that, let's jump into the product demonstration. All right, so right now, I'm sure you can see on my screen, I have logged into Aavenir. So when I log into Aavenir, this is where on the far left you see our branding, which of course can be customized to your organization's brandings and color schemes and all that. And the far right here, you see the user that you've logged in as. So today I've logged in as a user whose name is Rohit, and he's an AP staff. So it's a typical work day for an AP staff. So when you log in, the first thing that we show you is we land you on this page where you're able to instantly see a quick status of all your invoices that you're currently working on, across your entire department, across the entire function. So this is great visibility as soon as you log into this system. You can immediately see there are 62 new invoices that have been created. And by the way, created means invoices that have come in from suppliers by email, but the system has automatically created these invoice records for you using AI. And we will take a look at how that actually works. So if you want to know how many invoices have waiting for approval, there are 8 invoices waiting for approval, 11 invoices approved, and so many invoices that have been sent for payment. So overall, this gives you a very broad end-to-end picture about the status of all invoices that are currently being processed by within your department. Okay, so that's really great information to have. I'm sure you would agree that this kind of information is not easy to obtain when you're doing things manually and when you don't have a system to give you this information. Now, to start off your day, let's say you're an AP staff, you log in, okay, this is great information. Now you want to start off your day. Here are all the invoices that you have been currently working on. So you can see the status of these invoices. Some of these are newly created, some you have sent for payment. Some have been blocked. Blocked is because you've sent it back to the vendor, probably because of some mistake in the invoice. Some are in approval. So you immediately know which are the invoices you're currently working on. So you don't need to figure that out. It's right there, served to you right here. Now, How are these new invoices created? Like I've just told you that these invoices are created automatically by our system. So you don't have to any longer monitor an email inbox, waiting and watching for emails to come in from suppliers with invoices attached to it, right? You don't have to do that. So how does that work? Let's just take a look at that. So I've got an invoice here, and I'm now wearing the hat of one of your suppliers. And this is an invoice I'm going to send across to you. This address, this email address, this is what this invoice looks like. Just to show you quickly, this is an invoice number, date. There's one line item, there's some totaling, taxes. Okay. All right. So now I'm the vendor, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit send. And that email has now been sent by me, the vendor, to your organization. And you don't know about that yet. Okay. And you are not monitoring the emails anymore because let's say you have now got invoice flow, Aavenir invoice flow. So you're not monitoring those inboxes. So what you're really doing is you logged in here, you're looking through the landing page, the dashboards, you're looking through all your invoices. And when you scroll down here, there's more information available here. You see, we give you a categorization. It's based on PO-based invoices. Those all appear here. All your non-PO-based invoices, they appear here. So this, you can actually, prioritize whether you want to start processing your PO invoices or your non-PO invoices. They may have different internal workflows. But the one thing that you'll notice here, if you haven't already, so let me point that out to you, that the status of all of these invoices are created. So you see here on the non-PO invoices, all of these invoices are newly created. Likewise, all the invoices here in the PO-based side, all invoices also are newly created. This means, oh, did you just notice what happened? That was an automatic refresh. You just saw a new invoice come in here, right now in front of you, invoice number 612. So you were an AP staff, you just logged into Aavenir invoice flow. You didn't know that that supplier just shot out an email, but this invoice just came in, invoice number 612, that was picked up by Aavenir. So Aavenir monitored that email inbox for you, picked up that invoice, opened that attachment, used artificial intelligence to create this invoice record for you. That's what I meant when I said that this invoice intake process becomes touchless. Let's take a look at what this invoice now looks like. What's Aavenir actually created for you? So when I click this invoice number, it's going to take me here. Yeah, all right, here it is. The invoice page, where you see this left and right side-by-side view. On the left side, you see the information from the invoice. On the right-hand side, you see the actual invoice document. You remember this is the invoice that I had shown you that the vendor was sending across just now, just a while back. So what's Aavenir done? Aavenir looked at that email inbox, picked up this incoming email, opened this attachment, kicked in artificial intelligence and natural language processing, and picked up a lot of information. What kind of information? Let's take a look. Invoice number, INV1011, and that's the invoice number here. That's picked up here. And there's a purchase order number that ends with 1005, and that's been picked up here on the left-hand side, purchase order 1005. It picked up the vendor name Dell, and that's pretty accurate as well, Dell. Okay, let's see, what else does it have? Invoice date, 15th, 15th of September, 2020. And if you see here on the right, the invoice date is 15th of September, 2020. What else do we have? We've got the payment term, net 30 days. We've got the total amount, 28,975. So payment terms is net 30 days. You see here on the invoice. And that's a total amount, 28,975. But this invoice also has a line item. It's got one line item, 5 quantities. That's the unit price. And so our AI and machine learning pick up that line item for you as well. Pretty accurate. So we've got very high levels of accuracy for our machine learning models. Okay, so this was the step one, the technology, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, that's actually reading your invoices, your incoming invoices, picking up information from it, and creating that invoice record for you. Now, if you've been doing this manually all this while, and if you can now just picture yourself working with Aavenir invoice flow, you can pretty well imagine how much of time and hours this is going to save you already. But that's not all. Let's take a look at one more thing, but something very important. If you've not already noticed, there's this vendor field here, which has this blue tick mark. Now, what's that blue tick mark there for? The blue tick mark indicates that the system has also validated your vendor. So this field here, this field, the vendor name, this was picked up by AI. And then our system went through the list of approved onboarded vendors and found a match from a list of all vendors. So here's a list of all vendors, and it found a match with Dell. And that's why it's showing you that, yes, this is a valid, approved, onboarded vendor. And that, helps you with your vendor validation. So you're sure you're not getting an invoice from an unvalidated vendor, like maybe, minimizing your chances of maybe a fraudulent invoice, right? So that's the validation that's already done for you. But there's more. There's also a workflow. That's a step two, right? I told you the step 2 and 3 is validation and the collaborative workflow. And like I said, that this workflow, which you see here, is our out-of-the-box workflow, but it's you can tailor it. It's configurable to meet the workflow requirements of your organization, the way it works in your company today. But we've put up a very simple workflow here just to explain put across the idea. And I can actually drive an invoice through this workflow through actions. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and hit send for approval, but do notice that there's going to be some more matching that's going to happen here. This system is going to match your purchase orders and your GRN. So let's take a look at that. So as soon as I move it through the next step in the workflow, and let's just wait for this page to refresh, you will notice now, do you see here, there was just one vendor, a tick box here, a blue tick mark here near vendor, but now you got another tick mark here with the PO record. And that's because this was the PO number picked up by number that it actually picked up from the system from amongst all the POs. And so they matched the quantity and they matched the item. So a complete automated three-way matching with your PO and your GRN, a validation for your vendor, and a seamless workflow, a collaboration workflow, where I've now sent this across to the next stage, which is currently in approval. Obviously, I'm not the one who's going to do the approval. There's another person. So right now I'm logged in as Rohit. Rohit's not the approver. He's the AP staff. So who's the approver? So let's take a look at the approver. So I've got this browser window open here. And in this browser window, I've logged in as Peter. Peter is an approver, and he's right now, he doesn't know that you've sent something for approval. But as soon as Peter logs in, he pretty much lands on the same dashboard. Approvals that are waiting for him, and he can see, oh, there are 3 approvals. Let's see what are those approvals. So I click on view on approvals. And by the way, Peter could be anywhere, could be located anywhere in the world. Doesn't have to be in the same geography, same region. That's the best part of having our products built on ServiceNow as a SaaS model. And these are the 3 pending approvals, but this is the one we were looking at right now, invoice number 612. Here's some basic information about the invoice. He could potentially approve and reject right from here, but hey, let's take a look at this invoice first. Okay, I don't want to approve without actually taking a look at it. So Peter clicks into that invoice. Is a read-only view, a non-editable view of all the invoice fields, invoice metadata, the same information that the AP staff actually saw. He can also see the actual invoice document. And this is where he can type in some comments and approve. But what if he wants to know who all have approved or how many approval steps this particular approval has gone through in the past, just before him? So right now, this is a simple approval that we've set up. So Peter sees, okay, this approval was just initiated, and I'm the first one in the approval chain. So he says, okay, all looks good, proceed for payment. Okay, so he types in that comment, proceed for payment, hits approve. And pretty much that's all that Peter needs to do in order to approve. And so you see that automatically the system captures that Peter has approved along with the date timestamp and the comment that Peter actually typed in while giving the approval. So these date timestamps also are great for you to measure your approval cycle turnaround times, by the way. So the approver did his job. What about the AP staff? Let's go back to the AP staff and see what that person sees. So you can imagine the AP staff submitted for approval, went for lunch or a coffee and just came back and logs back into the system or refreshes the screen and he sees, hey, my invoice is approved. And who approved it? What approvals did it go through? If he wants to see that, well, on the right-hand side here, you see the approval history. And the AP staff is able to see that, okay, the approval was initiated with Peter, and then Peter approved it at this time, and he says, okay, proceed for payment. Awesome. So the full approval history is visible to the AP staff as well. Finally, it's now time to send this for payment to the payment system, of course, which is where your GL, your general ledger systems reside. That's your financial ERP. So from the invoice flow system, we will basically mark this for payment, which can then, go through a batch process to the financial system. But before doing that, before actually setting it, marking it out for payment, we can actually tie this up with a GL code. And these GL codes, we can actually, we bring it into Aavenir from the financial ERP. So once we've tied in a GL code, we can go ahead and save the changes. And then at this point of time, this is where we come to the end of our workflow, and it's now marked for payment. So in this way, as you process invoices through the system and you work them through that workflow, at the end, they all reach the mark for payment, the send for payment status, and that's when there can be a batch or a real-time mechanism that picks up those invoices and sends it out to the payment systems so that they can be processed for payment. So quick recap, we saw the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning technology that helped a virtual touchless way of intake of invoices. Then we saw application of validation, vendor validations, and your matching with your POs and GRN. And the third point was we saw the collaborative workflow that we can drive your invoices through. And like I said, these workflows are configurable. This was a simple workflow that we've just demonstrated to you. And last, of course, let's go back and take a look at what kind of visibility this system can give you. So if you remember, when you log in, you land on the dashboard. There's a lot of information here. So for example, if your organization wants to understand and analyze the various types of spends, so here's a small graph that gives you a glimpse into that spend. So it seems, according to this graph, you're spending a lot of money on Checkmate services, $461,000. So that's your biggest vendor with whom you're spending right now, right? And so there are different brackets, so you can easily know, where are you spending your maximum money. Now, this is grouped by vendor, but you could also group this by business unit, so you know which is the business unit which is spending the most. Commercial business is doing $86,000 worth of business every quarter, for example. And likewise, by department, by shipping country, and various other criteria. So that's just one of those ways how we can give you a lot of visibility into how your organization is spending its money. That's not all. We've got some essential key metrics that we show you here. For example, duplicate invoices. We do identify duplicate invoices, and we'll show you that percentage here. How many invoices you've processed per quarter, we give you that metric as well. So seems there's been a bump in Q3, and again, it's gone down in Q4. So that's good information to know. There could be a business reason behind that. How many invoices you've paid on time? That's a very useful, very valuable metric. How well are you doing across your people within your organization? So the invoices per full-time employee. And so this helps you make sure that no one particular employee is overloaded with work. And then of course there's non-PO versus PO invoices, time taken in processing from draft to approval, and from approval to actually when the payment is made. So there's a lot of good metrics available here to even measure your AP department's efficiency overall. And I assure you, once you actually start using this system, you'll actually see a lot of rise in overall AP efficiency and a lot of visibility into various types of spend that your organization is incurring. So with that was the 4 steps, essential steps to AP automation. And what I'll just do real quick, I'll just jump back into my slide deck just to wrap it up. So as an organization today, Aavenir is like I said, we are a complete source to pay organization, and we have products that span the end-to-end process of source to pay, from needs recognition to spend analytics. Of course, some of that is in our roadmap, but what we've got available right now is we've got the RFX management solutions, we've got contract lifecycle management, and of course the accounts payable automation, which we just saw today. I'd really encourage you to go to our website, www.aavenir.com. There's a lot of valuable information there for you. There's value kits, ROI calculator, if you want to know how much will be your return on investment if you use our system. So let me quickly show you that. So here's aavenir.com. I'll also put this link in the chat box. So when you go to this link, to this URL, here's the download for the Get the Value Kit. So if you click this button, you can actually download that value kit. And do take a look at that. That's got very good, valuable information for you there. All right, so with that, I'll wrap this up and hand it over to Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vikram. We are now entering the Q&A portion of this product demonstration. If you haven't already asked your question, or if you've thought of another question for Vikram, go ahead and type your question into the chat box and hit send to submit them to me. Roger's wondering whether this solution offers a supplier portal.
That's in our roadmap. At this point of time, we don't offer a supplier portal.
Deanna wants to know more about how you can help on the procurement side.
So we have contract management solution that really works very well to help you streamline your procurement contracts. That's one. And then the other thing is we also have the RFX management solution that helps you automate the entire RFX process. And these two products kind of go together hand in hand, because when you're doing your RFX and go through that entire process of our scoring the RFX and finally reaching an award, when you decide to award a particular vendor, you'd want to then step into the contracting process, and that's where our contract management solution also actually comes in to the picture. So that's what we have.
Beverly wants to know what the implementation process looks like. What's involved, and about how long does it take?
Well, that's a great question. So the implementation, to begin the implementation, what we do is our services team gets in touch with you. They do a complete scoping, understand the requirements. Once you've done the scoping, we give you an estimate, you do an SOW, and a typical implementation cycle, we've done implementations for up to 7 inboxes. I'd say about one inbox, about 10,000 invoices, takes generally about near about 10 to 15 days on an average, just to do all of the configurations and setup and all that. So it's really very quick, very fast, and you can actually get what we really suggest as a best practices. Like if you have a very large organization with many inboxes, it's always good to go in a phased manner where you do 1 or 2 inboxes first, go live, let those users get accustomed to the system, and then you follow on with the other inboxes.
Another attendee is wondering, how does my vendor database get integrated with the Aavenir product?
Yeah, great question. So a couple of options here. Number one, if you use ServiceNow for your vendors already, then there's no integration required because our product is built natively on ServiceNow. We can just access the vendor database. That's one. But if you use a different system for your vendor management, then we can integrate it using any industry standard middlewares. Like, for example, ServiceNow offers an integration hub, but if that's not what you use, it could be any other middleware. We also do REST and SOAP API. So there are various ways by which we can create that integration and pull that vendor information from that system into Aavenir.
Renee wants to know, does Aavenir determine payment terms based on the invoice or on a previously configured vendor level default?
No, so the way our artificial intelligence and machine learning works is we pick up the payment term from what's mentioned on the invoice.
Sushil wants to know about escalation procedures for invoices approaching their due date or a discount window.
So yeah, those kind of escalations and can be set up. Those are basically notifications in our systems. So our solution has a very powerful, robust, configurable notification engine where these criteria can be set up. And whenever an invoice is, for example, very close to its due date and the processing is still not completed, it can shoot out notification emails to all concerned people and things like that. So various types of notifications and alerts can be set up in the system.
Deanna wants to know, how do scanned invoices, handwritten invoices, and emails with links to invoices get entered into your system?
Oh, well, in pretty much the same way. So if you have a scanned invoices from, which has some handwritten stuff, and we've actually done that, we've had those kind of scenarios as well. And we have actually trained our machine learning to even handle those situations. So if you throw an invoice with additional handwritten things over that invoice by pen or pencil, our ML model knows how to identify that, and it ignores those things, and it basically just looks at the actual content of the invoice. And we're really happy to show you how that works. We can actually demonstrate that if you'd like to see how that works, we can show it to you if you can reach out to us. So we'll be happy to demonstrate that to you as well.
Rosanna wants to know how sales tax is handled. Is it done in the ERP? Is it done in your solution, somewhere else?
So that will be essentially done in your ERP from a payment perspective. What our solution does is it just processes the invoice for you. In the sense, it's going to receive the invoice from an incoming supplier. It's going to receive an incoming invoice from a supplier. It will identify the information on that invoice, create that invoice record for you, help you do the validation and the approvals, and then it will send it to the ERP for further payment processing. That's where your sales tax and all will actually get handled.
Kara wants to know more about your general ledger coding automation.
Yeah, so what we do over there is, we integrate with your GL system, your financial ERP. That gives the benefit that, before you actually mark an invoice for payment, after it's gone through the entire processing workflow, so the GL code gets tied to that invoice, and then it just makes it much easier for the payment system to, go ahead and process that payment, once it's sent to that system, of course. So that's an integration. We don't have the GLs obviously already in our system, so we will bring it in from the ERP where you actually maintain the GL codes.
Brenda wants to know, does the Aavenir system require a separate sign-on, or can users access it via a single sign-on?
Yeah, it's absolutely single sign-on enabled. So like I said, our solution is built on the ServiceNow platform. Now, if you already a ServiceNow customer, then it's just your ServiceNow credentials that you use. That's it. There's no separate login for Aavenir at all. If you're not a ServiceNow customer, you can still do a single sign-on through your corporate single sign-on provider.
Deanna wants to know whether she can match PO numbers without sending invoices out for approval.
Yes, absolutely. I knew that question was going to come, and I was waiting for it. Thank you for asking that. So that was just our demonstration workflow that we showed you, where I actually clicked on, excuse me, where I clicked on send for approval, and that's when you saw that batching happen. It doesn't have to be that way. It can happen as soon as the vendor validation happened at the beginning, where you saw the vendor tick box, the blue tick box to the vendor. It could happen at the same time as well. So, like I said, that our system is and our workflow is it can be tailored and configured to how you want it to actually work.
One of our attendees is asking about your licensing model.
So that's pretty simple. It's based on the consumption. We've got various buckets. It's basically based on consumption of number of invoices. So we'd be happy to share more of that, if you get in touch with us.
Marilia wants to know whether your portal supports vendor setup, and if so, what features does it offer?
At this point of time, right now, we don't offer a vendor portal. That is something that we have as part of our roadmap, but we don't have it today in our product.
Another attendee is asking, so how do invoices get entered into an ERP?
So that is an integration. So that's what our services team does with you. Excuse me. So that's part of the implementation services. So if we build that integration into your ERP using industry standard middlewares and REST and SOAP APIs, and when all the invoices are processed through the invoice flow, the invoice workflow, that's when it gets triggered and it goes into your downstream ERPs through that integration channel that our services team would have built for you.
Another attendee is asking whether your product has currently been deployed with an integration to SAP or Oracle.
So TD Williamson, the customer that I talked about, we have integrated our solution with their financial ERP. I'm just not absolutely sure whether that was SAP. I'll actually check that with our implementation team, but I'm happy to actually get back with that question, with an answer to exactly that question.
Another attendee writes, can invoice approvals be done on a mobile device?
Yes, absolutely. So because our application is built on ServiceNow, so you can use the ServiceNow mobile app and you can actually do approvals from that.
Another attendee wants to know whether percentages of invoices can be assigned to different GL codes.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that question?
An attendee wants to know whether percentages of invoices can be assigned to different GL codes.
Yes, absolutely. We can configure that.
Another attendee wants to know more about your exceptions process. Is that tracked? Does it offer online collaboration with suppliers? What tools do you have to improve exceptions?
So first of all, if there is an exception, and that's where I said that those are the invoices that you would actually want to go and touch and actually look what's wrong with that invoice. And what we currently offer is if there is anything that's incorrect on the invoice, of course, that can be notified immediately through alerts and email alerts to you, so that you know that okay, these invoices have something wrong with them. And then there's a process in our solution, which I did not show today, is you can actually send that invoice back to the vendor from within the system. So I mean, like you don't have to download that invoice and open an email inbox and then send it back. You can actually send it back with an error code and a brief description and just send it back to the invoice, send that invoice back to the vendor from within our system. And if you remember, I'd shown you one of the invoices, the status was blocked. That is when the invoice status actually moves into blocked, when you send it back to the vendor. And so the vendor has to then make some corrections and send it back by replying to the same email. And so that basically kicks in reopening that same invoice. So that's how that process works.
And that's all the time we have for this product demonstration. I have just a few housekeeping notes to go over before we officially end and transition into our next session. If you could please fill out the short evaluation form that will appear once you close out of today's event. That will help us better serve your needs in future virtual demo days. As a reminder, this event will not be available on demand. Please plan to attend the sessions that are of interest to you. Your webinar confirmation email provides you with full day access, and you can come and go as you see fit and your schedule allows. Thank you again to Vikram for a great demonstration today. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking time out of your busy days to join us. This demonstration was brought to you by IOFM and sponsored by Avenir. Up next,